financial proprietary rights and its rights as the airport operator.
My understanding, and I don't have firsthand knowledge, is that the fuel farm, et cetera, is being paid for in part of the lease agreement that Black Canyon has, which would not create an apples and apples situation.
Lloyd, you can respond to that, please.
Are you saying the fuel farm that Black Canyon is currently leasing?
Correct.
Okay, they did install one tank per their agreement, but the majority of that fuel farm was constructed by Montrose County. If we can step back just a little bit, you're talking about the FAA and the obligation to commit county funds to a project like this. By my numbers, with the construction and financing costs of $368,459, it costs Montrose County $1.28 million to build the ramp for Black Canyon Jet Center. Okay, we are in a situation now where we have a proposer who wants to build a ramp. We are simply giving them a credit and a credit that is not requiring us to include the interest. So it's just a flat credit. So it could be argued that the subsidy was actually went to the first FBO and not the proposer of Majestic, the proposal that we have today.
Commissioner Ellis would like to comment regarding this line of discussion.
Paul, thank you for the question. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about it. You know, I know Bill is still here. I think Bill Patterson's still in the room. So, yeah, I see his hand in the back. Probably the only one in the room that's had more time to deal with this other than myself is Bill Patterson and Bob Hill. And Bob, he's pursuing other options, and probably wisely so. But going back a second, let me just tell you from my perspective, when this whole thing surfaced and we became aware of the interest and they submitted the letter, really purposed, and I'd like to think all three of us did, that, we wanted to be fair to JCP, understanding the federal obligations, but to me, I wanted to apply the fairness doctrine. And going back to what we're talking about, and this is a little bit of history, but what was done on behalf of JCP was the county refied the bonds, got a better interest rate in 06, and approved 3 projects out of 6. One of them was the parking lot improvements, one of them was the road to the fuel farm, at least part of it, which the county plans on developing all the way through when we get the right-of-way finally secured. And then third was a ramp. So those things were done at the cost of the county. The fuel farm existed, but it was an investment the county had created, and he had tangible real estate. That was leased to JCP, and they were able to benefit from that leasing. It was already existing infrastructure. We built the ramp. I remember watching it go in. So there was a benefit that was given to JCP. Now we talk about the same or substantially the same terms being offered. That's in their lease agreement. Bill helped craft it, and so did Bob. That's real. Those terms are in there. So in the interest of the fairness doctrine, at least from my mind, the benefit that was given to JCP for a startup should reasonably be also, I think, applied to another operator that would come on the airport. I'm not sure how you can argue against that. So what's being offered to Majestic, if it's approved, is sort of the same benefit in reverse. I think David said it earlier, the JCP got. So let's keep the playing field as, where it's at on this. And I know Blake made the comment about spending taxpayer dollars. This really is a credit because it's their money. But the same thing really applied to JCP in reverse. So JCP had the benefit of that when they started up, and they were actually able to begin operations. I mean, as soon as they were in their temporary quarters, they were able to dispense fuel, and they had a ramp to operate off of. So that's been my perspective, making sure that they kind of set the standard for how this discussion, in my mind, right or wrong, should go. So I kind of hope that answers your question on that. It may not.
Well, in addition, there were in-kind contributions by the county, not the least of which was the demolition of structures to make way for a hangar space, removal of the old FBO modular building. There's more than just bonded debt that was involved. There were in-kind contributions from the county through Road and Bridge, and so there is parity here. And that's,
And Paul, I'm not sure I addressed your second comment. Was it about Jetaway? Okay, here's what, remember what the allegation was, and Bill's here, he can attest to this. We went through all these state court actions and 2 Part 16 complaints, and we prevailed on everything. The last thing that was thrown at us was a federal court issue on constraining competition and the allegation that we're trying to create a monopoly on behalf of JCP. And we always said that's not true. The issue there was much different because they wanted to operate through the fence in violation of the minimal standards. Not trying to constrain competition. We prevailed in that case at the federal judge level. Now they've appealed. And remember, this is still, we haven't heard back from the 10th U.S. Court of Appeals on this. We don't know where it's going to rest. We're hoping we prevail on that too. But the one thing I think by considering this and looking at this on one that qualifies for on-airport operation is we're demonstrating to the court we meant what we said. We're not trying to create a monopoly on behalf of JCP. We have a working lease agreement with them. It's a business arrangement. We keep our part of it, they keep their part, and it works well for the airport. But we're not trying to make a monopoly for anybody. And that was the argument, and so far has prevailed.
thank you. Next speaker would be Roger Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Roger, again, the 3 minutes on comments, and then we can engage in dialogue. So if you could, you have a history with us, so I just want to.
It's an excellent history, Mr.
Excellent history, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
I have 2 specific questions.
Closer to the mic, please.
I hope you can take notes on this because I only have 3 minutes. Have you met to discuss the testimony of the 2 experts that there's not enough business to support a second FBO? And by that I mean 2 or more of you met to discuss that issue. And the second question, do you have that?
Well, the
second
answer is
question-
no, from my perspective.
There's been no discussion of that? Is that the deal?
As to the having 2 FBOs in this airport,
I think Mr.
There's
Reamer.
not enough business to support. I know what he said.
no, I have not engaged in any of those conversations.
Have any of the others?
Are you referring to like Michael Hodges from years ago, the expert that we brought in on the lawsuit? Or I'm not sure what you're referring to, Roger. You say 2 experts?
There was expert testimony provided during the Jetaway controversy
No.
by 2 individuals, professionals, experts, that stated that there is not enough business to support a second FBO. The question is, have you 3 discussed this?
Negative.
David
No.
has said no, you've said no.
I think it was adequately explained the fact that market demand is not a consideration of.
With all due respect, Lloyd, my time is running, and I was talking to the folks over here.
Okay.
I don't mean to be disrespectful or rude.
Not at all.
Okay, so your second question,
The second
Roger.
question is, have 2 or more commissioners met to discuss the proposed agreement, which became available yesterday to the public, with Majestic Air?
No.
Y'all haven't met to discuss the agreement?
This gentleman here is the first time I've ever laid eyes on him.
Who?
Mr. Cantalupo.
I'm asking if 2 or more commissioners have met to discuss the proposed agreement, 75-page agreement, that became available late last night.
With
or this
Majestic, and the
morning.
answer is no. You can ask Ron and Gary, but we're not going to sit here and.
So this is the first that they've seen of it also? Today?
Our staff.
You can carry on with your answer.
Your question is. As far as Majestic, have they ever seen the contract or the lease?
Let me try to restate the question if it's ambiguous or not clear.
Roger, I can answer my part. I did talk to the county attorney, yes.
Okay.
And so did I.
So you have had the ability to read and understand the agreement, and you've talked amongst yourselves? I don't know how else to ask the question. There's an agreement that's 75 pages thick.
Well, the
became
great majority of
available.
that is our minimum standards and everything that was attached to the JCP.
Well, you've got page 18, item 6.01F.
Okay.
You've got page 5.
Roger, it's a contract. It's a lease. We read it. There's nothing wrong with us reading something that we as elected officials would be expected to have knowledge of and to be able to make a decision on, no different than buying a motor grader or a copy machine, entering into services, contract for services with Health and Administration, or Health and Human Services, I should say. I don't know where you're going with this.
I would expect that conversation to take place and that it be very productive. The question is, has the discussion or discussions taken place to discuss the content of the 75-page agreement among the three of you prior to today?
Our attorney can answer that question.
Why is that?
I believe that we had a closed session where you took direction or took input from legal counsel with the three of you all on this particular. And plus, I've met with each one of you separately on, after you've had a chance to read the document, on your separate comments and concerns that
Right.
you had.
Right, and we did meet with the attorney. The fact of the matter is roughly 90% of this contract is similar or the same as the JCP contract. I don't know why this is, you can ask the question, I'm just telling you I guess when the newspaper says it's a scam, then, that puts ideas in people's heads that it's a scam. It's not a scam. If it was a scam, then everything we do as commissioners would then be subject to such scrutiny.
If I
Come
may-
to our meetings.
if I do that all the time.
I know.
Mike,
But we have other publicly noticed meetings, Roger.
Oh,
Come
I
to
know.
all of them.
I understand.
Do our job.
Okay. And that is,
Roger, we're way off the charts here.
well, I'm sorry.
I mean, this is what I was alluding to at the beginning of this. Just ask your question. We answer the question. Are there any more questions? Because there are other people waiting to speak.
Am I shut off, sir?
If that was your last question, your 3 minutes are up. But we've engaged in this dialogue contrary to what I told you. So Mr. Henderson does have a comment for you, but you've asked your questions, and I think as a courtesy to the other individuals that wish to speak, that we can, if there are other questions relevant to what you've brought up, we'll possibly hear about those.
Roger, I never got a chance to read the agreement until last night. And so I read it last night. And when I was an undergraduate at the University of Colorado, which I was just there over the weekend, and I can't believe how much that place has grown and how different it is. I took a class in U.S. government regulation of business at Trustbusters. And the effort of that whole era was to make sure that there was no impediment to free enterprise. That if anybody who felt like they had the plan, the model, the money, and the energy to go ahead and come forth in any area of endeavor, whether it was cement, iron, or real estate, they could do so.